What's up, everybody? We'll be going live on TV here in about 3 minutes. So glad that you all have joined us out there and got a ton that we want to talk about this morning. And we'd love to hear from you. If you got a comment or a question or anything like that out there, yes, for us, we just started, buddy. So you can pick us up there. Again, we hope everybody had a safe fourth yesterday. I know there's several that did not. So we'll talk about that. I know there's a lot of people that have texted me this morning, and just it's kind of flooded our social media timeline about the fireworks incident at Blue Creek last night. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Obviously, I know that family extremely well. So it's really, really tough. But, the good thing is the reports that we have, there's there were no casualties. That's the best thing that we heard out of it. So, man, it's just a lot of, man, when you shoot fireworks and to the level of that, man, you just got to know there's a level of risk, a high level of risk when you're around pyrotechnics and stuff like that.
Well, I can assure you that I wouldn't be one that would be leading the charge on that. But, it's funny. Last night, it's not funny, but, it's just odd that we had just had that discussion over at my dad's house. There's a couple of neighbors in Windermere that have a little back and forth, Brett. And
right.
I haven't gone over to watch, but Dad's talked about it before, and they do it on the 4th and on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And I wouldn't even want to speculate the amount of fireworks that are shot between these two neighbors. But, one that's right across the slough from Dad,
right.
He said there is no way, Randy, that they're over there doing that themselves. That's a professional setup.
Absolutely.
With professional people doing it. It's coming from all around that point lot. And it was amazing. It really was amazing to see. But, it makes you think, Brett, everybody, that's not from here probably thinks that the only main fireworks shows that go on is the one at Russell Lands, which is unbelievable in itself.
Right.
I mean, that's amazing. But
20 seconds.
One down at Blue Creek's always been right there with it, and they're all over this lake. It's wild.
I know it. All right, we got about 10 seconds, and then we'll be ready to roll, everybody. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad all of you have joined us here on the program this morning. Obviously, you can comment away on social media, YouTube or Facebook, and we don't take calls now, really, unless we're in the studio. Don't have an opportunity to do that unless you call one of us on our cell phone, and I don't know if that'll work real well or not. But anyway, we're glad that you joined us. Appreciate JR's and Sunshine Heating and Air for everything that they do and the long running of this program, one of the longest running shows that we've had in our arsenal and one of the longest running shows in the state of Alabama. I mean, how about that? I mean, when you've been doing something for 20-something years, there ain't a lot of people that have done it 20-plus years like we have. We've been getting up on Saturday morning for 20-something years. We ain't missed many. I mean, let's be honest about it. We don't miss very many Saturdays. I have people come up to me still and go, what do y'all do in the summer? I'm like, get up in the morning and do the show. I mean, that's it. Oh, I knew y'all did that. But I'm like, well, what did you think? I have a clone? I mean, to have somebody that just steps in the summer months, like, no, we don't get a break, but that's fine. We love it. And so, Randy, good to see you here on a post 4th of July. Of course, the weekend continues. I'd be remiss. I got to say happy birthday to my wife. It's my wife's birthday today. So that's the real celebration around our house. The 4th is just the prelim to the real celebration today. So.
And those that know Kim, like I tell Brett, as often as I possibly can, that somehow if there's a way to outkick your coverage better than Brett Pritchard did, you're gonna have to show it to me.
I can tell you.
Oh, but Brett, hey, as you were talking on this Saturday, though, I'm thinking of the change in technology. I mean, look where you and I are. You're down in your lair
Right.
downstairs in your house.
Actually, this is upstairs. This is my upstairs
Well,
layer. I've got
yeah.
another one downstairs. So
So Brett Pritchard has, back to how great his wife is. He has his own man cave downstairs, and now I guess he's got an upstairs man cave to go with it.
yeah,
That's how good Kim is. But Brett, we can do the show wherever we want to do it now. I
right.
think back to when we first started, we would have died to be able to go on location with some of the remotes that we
Oh
were
man,
doing. If you think when we, I think for a couple of seasons for Auburn football, we were out in Mama Goldberg's
we
doing
were
the show right there on
the 2010 season, Randy, the year that we won the national championship.
and we would have loved to have been able to go live with the television show, but we were just kind of plugging in the same way that we did on Friday night with radio, and times have changed, and we have tried our best to change with them. So yeah, it's really tough news coming out last night, Brett, and I
Right.
guess we'll start there this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. I know it's not sports related, but that lake behind you, so many people flock to this lake for the Fourth. Just probably the biggest weekend. Memorial Day is pretty big. Labor Day is a big day, but nothing's bigger than 4th of July on Lake Martin. And again, one of my good friends, and yours too, Randy, Dr. Wilmarth. They started shooting fireworks and having a fireworks show 15 years ago. I was just down there a couple of weeks ago and spending some time with him. He and I worked together for over 20 years at Central Alabama Community College and really got to know him. And he and I took students on numerous trips. So he and I have built a bond, know Darlene, Allison, Jonathan, all of them really, really well. And, that fireworks show garnered a lot of attention and just grew and grew over the years to what it is now. And, um, you know, 300, 400, 500 boats flock to Blue Creek to watch that fireworks show. And again, like you said, there's a lot of them all over the lake now. There's one in Minoy Creek. I know there's one, obviously the big one at Russell Lands, and then you got that one in Blue Creek. And they got them scattered. I think there's one in Parker Creek too, or whatever. But last night is your worst nightmare if you're putting one of these shows on. And I guess one of the mortars exploded early before it left the barge, and then when it did that, it set everything off, and the whole barge exploded. And there were 4 guys on there, and I know Jonathan and Aaron. He married Allison, that's Rick's daughter. Were on that barge, and they all survived, but they were injured and airlifted out. So again, it was in the middle of the night and it was dark, and you just hear a lot of mixed reports. I haven't talked to him actually to get an update from him. Obviously there's a lot going on in their family because they got airlifted to multiple places. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them and everybody that went down there to help last night. Just a terrible accident. And the fortunate part though is that we're talking this morning that there weren't any casualties. So that's the best news out of the whole deal.
Yeah, it really is. And, that's one of those families, Brett, that no matter where you travel, somebody knows and loves them. You have certain families out there. You're like, oh, do you know the Will Marston? Are you kidding? Do I know them? I mean, they're like some of my favorite people. And the island down there, I can remember going, no telling how long ago. I mean, we're getting so old. Look at us on the camera here. It's been a long time ago, but just to go and check out what he has put together there is something to see. But they're great business people and very artistic family that I've always appreciated because I work around people like that. And when you see the level of IQ and talent that goes into that type of family, it's amazing to me. So I've always been intrigued by them. And, they've also been on our show quite a few times to talk wakeboarding and other passions that they have. And we probably need to go back down that path, Brett, with as big as that's gotten here on the lake. And so that was a couple of summers back to back where we really spotlighted that. So again, yeah, like you said, and I'll just reiterate it. Thoughts and prayers go out to that family. I know how much that community appreciates what they've done over the years, not just
Right.
with this, but many other things that they do that make that Blue Creek area really intriguing, not only to the ones of us that live here, but all throughout the Southeast and throughout the country now, Brett. That's a side of the lake and a kind of an atmosphere and a culture on that side of the lake that I think a lot of people really, really love. And what they do is a big part of that.
Yeah, it is. Icon, just in where they live down there, having a house on an island, like literally an island. You cannot get to that house without getting on a boat or swimming. You have one or two, and it's funny. We'll kind of, I'll kid a little bit. I've been out there so many times, and we'll just be sitting out there. Somebody will ride up on a Sea-Doo and boat. And if you're one of these that have done this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but they'd literally come up and go, "How'd y'all get out there?" I'm like, "Really?" It's like they're, but and they mean well, but it's like, how did y'all do all this? But anyway, it is unique, and a lot of people just like to come down and ride around and see it, and he welcomes people to come in and look. I mean, he loves, nothing probably gives him more joy than showing that place off. So, but anyway, the reason we talk about that to start the show this morning is our thoughts and prayers are with that family and everybody that was there last night. I'm getting texts right now. You and I are getting texts right now. People that were there, that were watching the show, and just, it was horrific. When they, it kind of takes you by surprise when something like that, you're watching explosion. So when you see one that, that blows up like that, you go, was that intended to happen? Or, it takes a minute for it to sink in. Then all of a sudden you realize, man, that was not planned. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of first responders there last night trying to help on scene and stuff. So I know that they're very much appreciated as well. So, but I say all that to say the weekend is really just starting. I mean, yesterday was Friday. You got Saturday and Sunday, and the boats were out yesterday, and there's going to be more out today on Saturday. The weather seems to be really, really nice again. And so please be careful. And again, at night, there's a lot more boat traffic at night, Randy. And, I've been on this lake my whole life. You know that. I can drive that lake at night almost blindfolded. But there's a lot of people that get out there and they go, "Oh, we're on the lake. We can just go wherever and all." And you kind of get blinded by the shoreline lights sometimes.
Yeah.
You kind of get your depth perception off. It's different animal at night when you're riding around out there. I can tell you that. So just be careful if you're out there navigating at night. Just go slow. Don't be in a hurry. I can't say enough things about safety on that lake.
Well, and I'll take this chance to thank one organization on the lake that, right here on my lot, I've got 2 lighted buoys out at the point.
Right.
LMRA. They're the ones that put those buoys out around the lake, make sure they're lit, because there's no telling how many issues I'd have, right out in front of me if it wasn't for those buoys, Brett. Right. So Lake Martin Resource Association, there's people like that all over this lake that do things that they don't get recognized for near as much as we should. So a good opportunity to thank them.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break here on the show. We're just getting started on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Again, get your comments in. If you got a question or anything about last night, or you got a comment that some more information you'd like to share with everybody this morning, please do so. I mean, that forum is open there on YouTube and Facebook. We'll say a real quick shout out. Thanks to everybody that have subscribed to our channel. We're over 10,000 now. And YouTube sent me a little notification yesterday going, you've hit a milestone. It is a milestone. And we appreciate all of you out there that have found us and continue to spread our content. So we really, really appreciate it. Much thanks goes out to all of you. All right, up against the break. Stay tuned. A lot more to come. Just getting started here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. It's what does it mean when a decommit tweets Auburn is poverty? So, yeah, I saw.
Are we going to go into that? Are you about to go in? You going to go into ambush next?
Yeah, I'll go into ambush.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yep. Ed, I mean, I'll be honest with you. And look, just talking to a couple of recruits too, Auburn's not telling any of these recruits a number. They're not giving a number out when they sit down with them on these visits and talk about things. So it's kind of, and there are others, most all these other schools are, and supposedly Auburn's waiting until August 1 to start talking to kids about what they feel like they can do. And whether we all agree with that or not, that's the decision they're making. So yeah, I think they're catching a little bit of a little flack from people for that. And the perception is, oh, you're broke and you ain't got any money. I don't believe that at all. But I will say that all I can go off of is what I've been told to my face. And the athletic director and Hugh Freeze at Ambush, when we were in the media room specific, and we posted the videos on our channel so y'all can go watch them, specifically said, this is how it's going to be. And, we're going to take this thing all the way to December, and they feel like they'll be fine. And then I watched somebody yesterday talk about Auburn, and with a potential of 4 first-round draft picks on this team, they went down through there and said out of the last 15 teams that had 4 potential first-round draft picks or ended up with 4 first-round draft picks on that team, 12 of them won a national championship, and the other 2 won 10-plus games. So, it really boils down to this. This is probably the best Auburn football team we've had on paper in a long time. So there is a lot of, look, do what you got to do right now. And you've invested a lot into this roster and you've built it up. Now you got to go win. If you go out there, I mean, the stats don't lie. I mean, if you say the last 14 teams that had 4+ potential first-round draft picks on them, 12 of them won a national title.
Give me those 4 you think are going to be first-round draft picks.
All right, Keldrick Faulk, Eric Singleton, Xavier Chaplin, and Connor Lew. I think all 4, and the Connor Lew maybe not this year, but next year. But I'm saying over time could all be potential first-round draft picks.
Well, but I mean, I think that what you're saying is 1 year though. So Connor Lew, he would have to come out this year for us.
He could come out this, yes, yeah. I mean, we would see.
They're all Alabama, Brett, Alabama and Georgia. If you're going to give them multiple classes, have 4 first-round draft picks every year, every single year.
I think we're a little bit behind. My bad there at the studio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Just now getting rolling here this morning on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Got some comments coming in. I'm just giving an explanation. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. All I'm saying is that this is the first time you've even had multiple guys being discussed on an Auburn football team as being a potential first-round draft pick. And what the guy that I saw was talking about is that in comparison with teams that have had 4 first-round draft picks on a team, that's what they've accomplished. Now, again, they got to play a season. They got to produce. But, we've seen multiple prognostications where they've got at least those first three we've talked about over and over. Xavier Chaplin, Eric Singleton, and Keldrick Faulk being projected to go in the first round. Now, again, you can say what you want to about Connor Lew, and I think Connor Lew has a really, really good season this year. He could be up there as well. So, but we haven't been talking about first-round draft picks with Auburn, and God knows when. We ain't had one and it's been 5 years since we had one. So now you're talking about multiple. My point in saying all that is this is the best roster we've had in a long time.
I think it's the best roster if the quarterback play meets Auburn's expectations. Let's just put it that way. Not meets Jackson Arnold's expectations coming out of high school. I'm talking about meets what the coaches think they have in that room's expectations. Because I can't imagine that last year the expectations of the coaching staff was met or exceeded ever, because they weren't. I mean, it was mediocre at best. At times it was serviceable over the last couple of years, but that's not going to win it. Not when you're consistently putting talent out there on the field that doesn't match the talent of the top end teams that you play. And Auburn's still not in a situation where they're going to go play Alabama or Georgia and we're going to be more talented than them. Are we closer? Yes, much closer. And who deserves the credit for that? This coaching staff. So there's not much more I can keep adding to that outside of I'm going to watch the first couple of weeks and see if Jackson Arnold's a different player than I saw last year. If he is, then I'm going to be all in. But I got to see him be a much different player than he was last year.
That's fair. I mean, I think all of us are in that boat. I mean, we don't know. Nobody, the coaching staff hopes that that's going to be the case, but you can't, again, and I said this, I think earlier in the week or maybe into last week, the season can't get here fast enough for this Auburn team because they have to prove some things. And, everybody has things to prove, but nobody has more to prove than this Auburn team this year. Again, back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes for Hugh Freeze. You said this numerous times, for the knocks he has gotten on the field as a coach, can't knock what he's done on the recruiting trail. And he's been able to go out and, last year was one of the best years we've seen in any of our lifetimes. Randy, you and I recruiting in the state of Alabama and went out and, that's the thing that's head scratching for people this year. I know Auburn didn't have a good season last year, but Auburn didn't get blown out in any game. And we all know the quarterback really, that situation really was the main issue for why Auburn didn't pull out, at least 2 or 3 more of those games. So you're not really that far off. You don't feel like, and then now you look at recruiting, it's a complete 180 from where you've been the last 2 years. And people are just going, why is it that way? Why is Auburn 89th in the country in recruiting right now? And why are they missing out on so many of these guys right now? Well, we had that explanation from the Auburn administration and Hugh Freeze this week at Auburn Ambush. And
let me jump in there real quick before you get going. How was the event, Brett? How many consecutive years have we had one on Lake Martin? And just talk about the Lake Martin Auburn Club and what it's all about. And for those that are just tuning in, that are maybe new to this area, new to the lake, how can they get involved? So before you get into something that we're going to talk multiple segments about, let's hit on that just a second, because I know how involved you are.
Right. Well, just a very good event again. And Ambush is put on by the Auburn Alumni Association, and they pick 3 spots every year, and they want to come back to Lake Martin every year. And that's an honor for us that are part of the Lake Martin Auburn Club board. And, I'll just tip my hat to Neil Butler. He's the president, and he does a really, really, really good job, of handling all of this. It takes a lot of time and planning to pull this event off. And, we sell that event out pretty quickly, and it's at Willow Point every year. And, it's one of those situations where there's a lot of people that want tickets that can't get tickets. And so Auburn loves to come back there. And of course it's right down the road from Auburn. So it's a great venue, and there's so many Auburn people around this area when you connect Montgomery and, some of the other surrounding areas. But yeah, it's a great event. We've had Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze the last 2 years. Didn't have Bruce this year. Bruce not making any of the appearances this year. Stevens making the trip around this year. Also had Coach Thompson there and Coach Vickers, the new women's basketball coach. But, it's just well put on. And, the Lake Martin Auburn Club has been having a summer event every year. We used to just go out on our own and try to ask a coach to come. And but the university has really gotten involved with the Ambush stuff. And so they've helped out tremendously. And, they help advertise the event. And so, yeah, it's just really, really a great event. There were probably 400 plus people there. We were at capacity, and we are every year. So Good to hear from the coaches and the administration. Not many places get all of those guys to come to their event, and we do it every year. So, I'm not saying that we're the best organization, the best Auburn club, because there's a lot of good Auburn clubs. The one in New York, the one in Atlanta, the one in Houston, Texas, and Dallas. I mean, got them all over the country, but I don't know that you could find one much better than the one we have here at Lake Martin.
Well, you mentioned Neil, and there's quite a few others that deserve Larkin, and many others that have Tommy. I can keep going down the list of people that have really put their heart and soul into this event, Brett. But, as you're talking, one of the great things we've got here on this lake behind me is a lot of retirees that are very, very knowledgeable people that have been highly successful, and they may be retired, but they want to give back to something. And you and I get asked to be on umpteen boards every year, and I'll commit to maybe one or two from time to time, but more times than not, I'm saying, look, y'all, I'm in the middle of this. I'm as busy as a human possibly can be right now. You'd be better served by getting somebody that actually has some time to put into something like this and actually has a passion about it. So I know this is one of the many that you're on, Brett. But if it wasn't for people like that, I don't know that it would come off as well as it does.
Well, and the good thing is we all have a role, again, like you, I don't get a chance to attend as many meetings as I'd like. You don't meet a lot. Really, the board I hear people all the time ask, like you say, how can I get involved? What can I do? There's really not a lot to do other than you can donate money that goes to the scholarship fund that, and we had a couple of students there receiving scholarships the other night. And, that money goes to that scholarship fund to help students go to Auburn. But really the board meets in planning for this event because it is our biggest event. And we do some smaller things throughout the year, like trash cleanup on the lake and stuff like that. And, we kind of team up with the Bama club, the Bama Lake Martin club, with a Lake Martin cleanup in the fall, or actually in the spring, early spring. But yeah, there's a lot of people involved, and we all have different roles. But at Neil's seat, and when Larkin was there, it's a lot of responsibility, man. A lot of logistics to have to get everything to go over right, and especially when you're selling sponsorships and making sure you have people on schedule and time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a fun group to be part of, and all you got to do is go to the website, the Lake Martin Auburn Club website right there. There's no fee to join. You can become part of the Lake Martin Auburn Club by simply giving money to the scholarship fund. So that's how you can help out there. Let me get the break for TV. We'll come back and we'll keep this going and take some comments that are coming in. Stay tuned, everybody. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Brett, can you pop those comments up?
I can.
I'd love, because I can't see them. I'll be right back.
Yep. Hello, buddy.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Good Lord, are you in a library?
Hang on, I'm trying to get my microphone set up. Is that better?
He's gonna put on the 18th green, everybody. Yeah, it's
hang on, is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
I was like, somebody about to putt or something?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying not to wake up the rest of the house.
Good luck on that.
I know it. What'd I miss?
Not much. I mean, we talked about the firework situation last night.
So is anybody dead?
No, no. We actually just got a call. Just talked to. I'm gonna have to call him back, but Dr. Wilmart's a good friend of mine. That's who put that on. He was actually just calling me right now. I tried to call him this morning. It's his son and son-in-law and all that got injured. So they got airlifted out. I may step out here in just a minute and try to take this call and just try to call him back to check on everything. But yeah, just terrible, man. Just no casualties though. That's the good thing. They've been doing that show for 15 years. So they're experienced. It's kind of like one of those deals like, what do Was that people out there didn't know? I'm like, no, these people know what they're doing. They take all the precautions. They know everything. Stuff happens, man. I mean, that's life.
Yep.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, bud, what's up? Do you know
Good,
how to
man.
take the Auburn Blitz banner off? Do you know how to do that? The icon up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look good with that, by the way. That's
Well, I
a
was saying
perfect
if it's-
spot for you.
It's a great spot.
I left it on there for you, man.
All right, Brett, hit. Luke, I don't know if you've been able to watch, but give an update on Ambush. Then let's go down, and then let's have a back and forth on the comments. Let's let Luke chime in, and then I'll come in after that because
That's fine.
Luke's, I know, got a definite comment, and mine's probably going to be agreeing with Luke. So I'd rather let him do it and ag you on than any.
You're not going to ag me on today. Y'all are wasting my time. You're wasting your time agging me on. So I'm just telling you.
You're already positioned for
I'm
what's
positioned.
going on.
I mean, really, there ain't anything to say until the season gets started for Auburn. They just got a lot to prove. I mean, period. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So they need to win some football games.
How much time?
About 20 seconds.
Did y'all see Malzahn's tweet?
With the Lee Martin thing?
Yeah, with the eagle behind him. That was pretty awesome.
He called
I can't keep one at my house. When I see one and I open a door, Luke,
Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Better late than never. Luke Robinson arrives right on time, 30 minutes into the show, and we're glad to have him. Thought he was on the 18th green at Sawgrass there for a minute when he came in. It's like he's whispering into the microphone. So,
well, when you're at the beach, you try to sleep in best you can.
you do. There's no doubt about it. And take a break when you can. But all right. So getting back to what we were talking about here on the program, the Ambush event was really good at Willow Point. Again, it's really, really, from a standpoint of selling that out, it's not a problem every year. It's probably the best event that Auburn does every year, the most attended event. We could probably sell 400 more tickets if we had the capacity. So, but it was a good event. Just kind of going through, and on the podcast this week, I talked about some of the comments that, we were in the media room with John Cohen and the coaches, and just kind of hearing the approach of what they're doing with the settlement, how they're looking at this thing. I mean, again, from a Auburn fan standpoint, you're looking at it going, man, I don't know what's going on, because the last 2 years Auburn's had top 10 recruiting classes, and the coaches didn't wake up and forget how to recruit. And, they've had a lot of really good official visits over the last couple of months. And, Auburn's made the top 5 for a lot of these top ranked recruits, and they're just not picking Auburn. And, I'll go back to one of Sedarian's quotes on 24/7 after the Auburn official visit. He said, when we went to sit down to talk about NIL, he said Auburn really couldn't tell me anything, and said that, we would be able to tell you more later on. And he said, we'll look at that and maybe entertain that sometime down the road in December. Again, Sedarian committed, and we'll talk about that, obviously, because Sedarian right here from Alex City committed to Alabama, and was a big get for Alabama. And I'll let Luke talk about that. But, really that's coming out of a recruit's mouth. So that's not speculation. That's not somebody saying, oh, well, maybe Auburn. But that's what Auburn's telling these guys. And if that's burning Auburn, well, I hope they have a plan in place for when they decide to start talking about numbers to get it laid out. So name the thing any of us can do or say. That's what they get paid to do, is to make those decisions how they want to handle it.
I think Auburn is – honestly, I don't know what they're doing. I think they have made some very grave mistakes. It feels like to me they have misjudged exactly what the new recruiting landscape is. And then Hugh Freeze saying essentially, not verbatim, hey, we're trying to do things the right way is, the irony there. I said it on the podcast. Having Hugh Freeze tell me I'm not acting ethically enough is like P. Diddy saying, I have too much baby oil. I'm just not going to hear it. You're going to have to find somebody else to tell me I'm not doing it right. And especially when everybody else is doing it this way, whatever way it is they're accusing everybody of doing it. I don't like the landscape. I mean, I don't mind saying that. I don't like it that an offensive lineman chooses Texas Tech and then his agent comes out immediately and says he's going to make 5.1 million. And then they have to, Texas Tech basically has to say, no, it's really more like 750,000 a year with the opportunity to get to 5 million. I mean, in my mind, I'm going, I don't care. That's not what I want college football to be, but it is what it is. Now, I can lament that fact. I also didn't want there to be an expansion of the playoffs, and I still don't like it, but it is what it is. So, I've got to roll with it, and maybe Cohen and Hugh Freeze don't like this new landscape very much. I don't blame them. I'm on their side there. I'm not on their side when they say things, we're trying to do this the right way, as if the rest of the world is doing it wrong and only Auburn understands it. That was so, it just was ill-advised statement to me. And I think that it's almost an excuse. And again, to your point, Brett, Auburn was in some top fives. So what were they doing to get in the top fives? They weren't telling them that part. They were leaving out the part that most everybody is the most interested in now.
I'll say this, and again, I don't know because I'm not in the room, nor you, with Alabama's coaches or whoever's discussing the NIL for them, or Dan Lanning at Oregon, whatever. I'm with you on the fact that, there's safety in numbers, the herd security. Like if you're part of the herd, I would rather be part of the herd and go, oh, we just all thought it was this way, instead of trying to be out on an island saying, we're going to take the stand over here and we're going to gamble that we're doing things right and everybody else is going to get their hands slapped down the line. I'm with you on that. I'm personally saying that. The problem is nobody knows. You just basically said when that came out about Texas Tech, then they had to retract, and all you see is people backpedaling on everything. And I think, and what Auburn said, and I'm with you, it came off probably going, oh, we're doing it right and everybody else is doing it wrong. And I don't think that was a good look. I'll personally admit that. But I do think they're sitting back going, because I don't think they forgot how to recruit, Luke. I mean, they had 2 top 10 classes back to back. And again, you hear about how many players enjoyed their visits, but it came down to, what can you do for me? Like you said, the most important part of this, and Auburn's telling these guys, well, we can't tell you anything right now. So they go, well, if you can't tell me anything right now, I can't commit to you. I don't know how they're approaching and why they're approaching it that way. I don't.
Brett, Randy shaking his head. I'll give him an opportunity here, but I look at it like, okay, if Auburn's not telling them anything, I wonder if anybody's asked Hezekiah Harris. He's a top 10 guy in the state of Alabama. I mean, his rankings dropped.
Well, I was just there 2 weeks
in the last year, but I'm saying, I wonder what Auburn told these guys last summer when Hezekiah Harris, when a couple of the linebackers, Tootle and Garrett, they both committed, and everybody was having, just double backflips because Auburn's got the number 1 class a year in advance or 2 years in advance of the 26th class. I wonder what they were telling them then. And did they, they had to tell them they were going to give them something. Everybody was giving somebody something then.
You got to remember, Luke, none of this had come down yet. No, there
was no. Yeah, but you could pay. It was worse in a way.
Well, yeah, basically it was loosey goosey, and it was kind of like, I think Auburn, from what they're saying, is they were they're concerned. And again, it's not saying that everybody else isn't concerned either. I just think Auburn's going, and because they've heard, and what Cohen told all of us in the media room is that we're hearing how severe these penalties are going to be if you abuse the salary cap. So it's on him, man. Like, he's the one that gets paid to make these decisions, and it filters down. And again, like we said, walking out of the room, there were several of us, just got to hope that he's making the right decision on this. And I told Wade and Faith on the podcast Friday, look, why does everybody say, and I know, Russ, we're going a little bit long here. We'll catch up. why is everybody saying, well, this is how I interpret it? Well, first of all, that's a problem in itself when we're all having to go, well, this is how I interpret it. Well, this is how they interpret it. Can't we just get a damn ruling that says, no, this is how it is? Because here's where the ambiguity is coming in. They're saying Cohen is interpreting that if the school gives you $400,000, Luke, and an outside entity gives you $400,000, that counts towards your salary cap.
Okay.
And then I read a contradictory statement that said that's not right.
I get that. I get that's how he's interpreting it. And I also get what you're saying about herd mentality. But herd mentality to me usually involves a smaller group with a smaller herd and maybe one person standing up for what's right. In this case, you've got 135 teams. They're doing it 130.
That's what I'm saying, Luke. I would side with y'all. I would rather be in the group saying I'm going to give offers rather than being the island by myself out here.
I hear you, but it's like there's 134 teams doing it one way. And Auburn's not even on an island. They're on a buoy in the middle of the Pacific that nobody knows where it is. That's what it feels like.
And let me get to break and we keep this going because I got another thought on that too that I think is very valid. So, all right, up against the break here on the show. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I'll start us off next time.
Yeah. But
I'll tell you what Cohen looks like to me. I'll tell y'all who Cohen reminds me of. Now, the two different positions. Cohen is Joab Thomas saying we're not going to be a football factory anymore. When he hired Bill Curry, remember we could have had Bobby Bowden and we hired because we didn't want to be a football factory. Brilliant. All that did was set us back about 10 damn years. And Cohen is Cohen's so scary.
I like Cohen, but the idea that we're going to wake up now as Auburn fans and think that the NCAA has load up. Let me finish. That the NCAA has teeth, Brett.
It's not the NCAA anymore, Randy. You got to start using that new term. It's this.
I don't care what the term is. You use whatever term you want to use.
The NCAA is out of it.
Okay, the NCAA, whoever is going to administer some type of ruling that hasn't been ruled on. When's the last time you saw someone get anything other than a slap on the wrist and didn't amount to anything?
That was my next point. No confidence at all.
But how is that not the stance then?
Well, they also have plausible deniability.
I think it's dumb to think they're going to say, "Oh, you're doing it right," and everybody else is doing it wrong.
Well, back in the day when Mike Dubose and staff goes over to Memphis and gives $340,000 to whatever the dipshit was that they recruited there, like there was teeth then. I mean. Fulmer, you can keep going. I mean, Pat Dye was only a few years back where Auburn lost out on a chance in '93 of winning championship because we were on probation. I mean, there were rulings that you could go back to and say, man, this really could hurt us. We could lose scholarships. This could be a problem. Name the last one that happened.
Here was the funny thing about all that. Looking back now, is they really had no power to enforce any of that. We all could have just thrown a bar. But no, seriously. The crazy thing about the penalties that were incurred to Alabama and Auburn and Tennessee and everybody else back in the day, we just all accepted it. The university, okay, they're the governing body. We have to accept. They've proven in 5 small years that the NCAA, all you just got to do is take them to court, and they lose. I mean, that's the crazy dang thing about it. So my point is agreeing with you, Randy. What we walked out of Ambush saying is, man, you really think that this committee – who has confidence in any governing body to come protect you if you are saying you're doing it right versus everybody else? I mean, I got no confidence.
My biggest problem is what you just said is dead on, Brett. Bullseye. You hit it. Nobody knows the ruling. Nobody understands it. It moves. And if you're unwilling to play the game, and I don't like the game. I mean, I had people down at my house I had people down at my house yesterday that were massive football fans said, I can't support this anymore. I hate this product that we're putting out there. And I said, that's fine, but you can't work in it. Like you can't decide that you're going to be part of college football and recruiting and coaching if you're unwilling to. It's easy for us that don't make a salary to do that. So
5 seconds. Let me get us in. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We're got about an hour and 20 minutes left on the show today. Randy, I'll defer back to you on this discussion here. I'll say one thing real quick. I just don't have any confidence in any governing body to do the right thing or to police anything. And look, the three of us all can agree it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, right? A lot of times, especially when you got mass numbers with you.
Yes.
When you step out on a limb by yourself, you kind of isolate yourself. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think you said it perfect, bullseye, that nobody truly understands the way that this thing's going to play out. I didn't 5 years ago when we were sitting at BRHS Quarterback Club meeting with an Alabama collective organizer, and I'll leave it at that was playing the gray area as well as anybody and explained it. I don't know if Luke was with us that night, but he explained it to me better than I've had it explained to me. And I got in my mind finally what this collective thing was actually going to be was nothing more than to funnel money to the players under an umbrella that's not, umbrellaed underneath the football program. It was nothing more than to promise a player whatever they needed to get them there. With the NIL being the reason that they're able to do that. In today's world, like, they have no teeth. So I'm with Luke. I'm 110% with Luke on this. That Auburn out here on the limb, unwilling to play the ugly game that is recruiting now and the ugly game that is the $20.5 million salary cap and how you're going to play that number and whether certain givings to kids are sheltered under that number or others are considered NIL. I don't understand. I've never understood it. I still don't understand the collective and how all of that works out. So I don't think you can be one that can sit out there on the limb and not get completely run by. And Auburn,
you are getting run by right now.
We are. And I'm going to go in a different philosophy, and I want to get Luke's thoughts on it maybe on the next segment. But we'll finish up the talk here. And I feel that it's more of an excuse than anything else at this point. And and I hate to see that we go out and get 8 of the top 11 recruits in the state of Alabama last year. And then this year we've got one in our hometown and all over the state. Alabama's racking them up, buddy. And you can't tell me, I can understand Alabama getting 3 of 5 or 4 of 5, Luke. But Alabama getting 100% of them, that tells me Auburn's not making like offers. And if Auburn's not making like offers, Brett, when we're in a position where we've had 4 straight years of losing seasons, you're not going to win any of these battles. It's impossible.
It's crazy.
No, I mean, it's impossible to win the battle here.
Right.
I see Brett has put up Travis Betsby's, I think that's how you say it, point about what would be the point of implementing a salary cap if you could just add any amount of NIL on top of it. First of all, that's a great point. I understand. Now, for my understanding of this, which is limited, is that any NIL deal that is worth more than $600. Now, is it $600 for the year, $600 a week, $600 a month? I don't know. But the number is $600. Has to go through some type of clearinghouse. They already have this NIL Go thing set up where I believe some of these deals have already been put through the clearinghouse. And again, my understanding is some of them have already been rejected. But now I don't know whose deal was rejected when. That's another thing we don't know. But I come back to this, that Stanford is doing it this way. Stanford's recruiting better than Auburn right now. I just looked at it. They've got a higher ranking. Oregon State does. All these other teams. And you're telling me, and they have even more commits than Auburn. Huh?
Toledo does. I can save you time from scrolling.
I will say this. I'll give Auburn this. I had a fun tweet that I was going to tweet out yesterday for the 4th of July and say, in celebration of 4th of July, Auburn decided to be 4th in the state in recruiting. But shoot, they're only 3rd. UAB is much worse than Auburn. They're ranked 107 in the country. They've only got 3 commitments, and I think all three of them are for other sports. They just put them into football just so they didn't look embarrassed. But anyway, Auburn's got money and resources and lawyers that have graduated from there. My question is, if what Cohen and what Freeze are saying is true, and by the way, it wasn't lost on me, and it could all be coincidental because everybody says Bruce Pearl was on vacation. That Bruce Pearl didn't even show up to this event because I'm sort of like Bruce, probably like, I'm so mad right now at this administration that I can't even show up at this event and put on a smile that I have naturally. You know, he's probably so upset because that's the one person. If it's sort of like this, if I were Cohen, the one thing I'd do, I'd go to Bruce Pearl. I wouldn't go to Hugh Freeze. I don't think Hugh Freeze still just doesn't. Something ain't right with that man. Sometimes it seems like, but Bruce Pearl, things are right with him. I'd go to him, and just like I would have gone if I were Greg Byrne, and if I had a question, I would have no qualms going to Nick Saban to say, "What would you do?" Because you seem to always do it pretty right. I'd go to Bruce Pearl and say, "Hey, Bruce, do you interpret this like we can't really tell him a number? Like it's so vague and we're so scared, or do you interpret this like, let's let the rough end drag and see how this thing plays out?" I bet you I know which way Bruce Pearl would say.
I'm going to say this, and we'll go to break, and then we'll keep it going. You know, when you start, and Cohen said, wait till August 1st, you know, to all of us in the Auburn media in that room, he said, and then, of course, we're a long way from December. He said both of those things. You can go back and watch the video. We've got it up on our YouTube channel. When you say that, okay, all right, so what's going to happen when August 1st rolls around? You know, you've set yourself a deadline, and everybody's going to be watching that date now. Are you expecting a lot of guys to all of a sudden start flooding in, or, you know, what, again, you put yourself in this position, and I don't know. Again, I would much rather, I'm telling you as an Auburn guy, I would much rather be on your side right now where we're getting commitments from these guys. Like, I'll be honest with you, Tank Jones shocked me. We didn't make the top three. Tank Jones is taking visit after visit after visit after visit to Auburn. There were several crystal balls to Auburn. Even when Alabama really picked up their recruiting on him, he was still crystal balled on 24/7 to go to Auburn. He came out and just loved Auburn. And
Brett, let me jump in real quick because I want you to add something to those that don't watch us too often. We got to remember we've got a lot of new subscribers, rolling over 10,000. You have met with all of these kids in the last month. You have been. Most of the questions that are coming up, you with the AHSA have been around and interviewed these kids. So I just want to throw that in there. Tank Jones being one of them.
Yeah, he was. And I'm going to take a break for TV. We'll come back. We'll keep it going. But, yeah, I have. And so I've got some thoughts on that too. All right, everybody, stay tuned. More to come right after this. Yeah, I was just with Hezekiah Harris 2 weeks ago. I mean, you know, you can go watch all the interviews. Faith interviewed every one of these recruits and prospects.
Top 10 around the state.
Yeah, when we were down in Jackson, talked to, you know, EJ and Landon and Kean and all those guys. And, you know, Tank Jones a couple months ago, Sedarian back in March or April. So, yeah, we've been making the rounds. Not one time did I feel at that point any of those guys were like, well, no, I'm not going to Auburn. They were all speaking very highly of Auburn and speaking very highly of Alabama. And then you get a Texas A&M or a Florida that get thrown in there. You know, I thought, I'll be honest with you, I would have bet anything that Vodney Cleveland would have committed to Auburn. I mean, Faith and I both walked out of there going, you know, a lot of times you play the psychological game when you go to some of these places and you go, not all the time, but the first, when you ask a kid, like, well, all right, where are you leaning, or what's your top? Usually the first one that comes out of their mouth is kind of, because it's just psychological. It's what's on top of mind. They just unintentionally do it. Well, Vodney, first thing he said was, well, you know, Auburn really stands out to me. And, you know, Jordan Crawford's down there and the visit was great. I love Hugh Freeze, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, then he said Texas. And then he said Florida. And, you know, he was getting ready to take a trip to Florida. And so I walked out there going, man, yeah, I think Auburn really did what they need to do with Vodney Cleveland. Then lo and behold, he takes a trip to Texas and commits. And I thought it was maybe a token trip to Texas. I did. And so I don't know, man. Like, all of these guys, I never got a bad vibe from with Auburn. Never. And so something's causing this to happen. And I think we all know what it is. It's not.
Well, I just had a thought that it may be worse than you think in this sense. I just looked at Auburn's commit list, and I'm like, well, if the kids that are committing to Auburn don't know what they're going to be getting, imagine how desperate they must be to get on board with somebody that's a higher, Power 4 school,
Right.
which would tell me, whoa, that's also not good. You don't want somebody to just jump on because they're like, oh, this is far and away my best offer, because they don't know what money they're getting. That would scare me if you're like, what's that old line? I don't want to be a member of any country club that have me as a member. That's kind of the same thing. Like, I wouldn't want a recruit that is so desperate to join me, he doesn't even know what kind of things I can give him.
Right. I mean, there's all these different perspectives to look at it. And I mean, I definitely think that that's a legit argument for people out there right now. Is why it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. If Auburn had been struggling, guys, in recruiting the last 2 years, and then this came through, we were like, well, man, Auburn must be broke. Well, we've been told out of the horse's mouth, one of the most prominent boosters for Auburn told me directly, money's not a problem. It ain't going to be a problem at all. So what is it? What caused the 180? Oh, we got 8 seconds.
Hey, I'd like to hear from Luke, the commitment list over the last couple of weeks. Luke.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. One segment left here in the first hour. Again, we got some comments coming in. Let's get one more comment up here. Ed said every NIL that is not approved, no matter what the number is, through the clearinghouse, that player will sue them to the point where they are out of business. I mean, it goes back to the court system. All of this, like what I said just a minute ago, when we all just accepted these dang penalties from the NCAA that killed our schools for several years, all they ever had to do is go to the court system and say, well, you can't do that to us. Where's your authority to tell us we can't, because some stupid rule in a book? So, yeah, I agree with Ed on that.
Well, I don't think – he said the only thing I disagree with him is he said that player will sue them. If they were going to sue them, I think some of them probably already would have, because as we mentioned, that some of these NIL deals have already been negated. So I'm guessing it will take somebody to do it. All
it takes is one.
I know. Well, I go back to what you said about why did Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky in basketball, Oklahoma, all these schools probably could have made a lot of this happen sooner. But at the time, everybody was still holding on to this idea of amateurism and, hey, we don't really want football to be that. I don't think the world was ready for what it is now. Now things are different. And, remember when the skier for Colorado, I think it was a skier. He also had a YouTube channel or something. He was making tons of money on the side. And the NCAA said, you're not an amateur anymore. And he was like, wait a minute. I'm not even talking about what I'm doing at Colorado. I'm doing something totally different. How can you tell me I can't make money doing that? That sort of helped this a lot, just like Ed O'Bannon did with the basketball game. And by the way, they're coming out with a new basketball game, which is great. But I'm saying, like, it takes somebody to truly, back when Alabama got hammered, I can tell you this, everybody in the world was just rejoicing. I mean, it was like, everybody was just, oh, this is so great. This is so awesome. And I was thinking, okay, number one, it sucks for me as a fan, but I was like, number two, a lot of this kind of sucks because this isn't right what they're doing. And they don't know, they don't also know they're eventually going to hurt themselves. They're going to hit the wrong team at the wrong time and realize, oh, this was dumb on our part for money. Because if look at what the SMU, they didn't realize it when they gave SMU the death penalty, and it basically killed the whole conference. And at the time, everybody's like, well, we'll work through that. That's no big deal. You do it to the SEC, and I think everybody would realize a big loss of revenue, and everybody go, wait a minute, we didn't want this to happen. I mean, so
I've always thought that, Luke. I've always thought it was a conflict of interest for the NCAA to administer penalties on schools that bring them revenue. I mean, how hard are you going to hit Notre Dame and Ohio State when they're pulling money in for your organization?
Right.
Are you going to go in there and tell them they got the death penalty? You're going to eliminate their program? That's just, to me, it's all been backwards to begin with.
But, look, meanwhile, the other thing that makes Cohen and Freeze look even worse in all this to me is the flurry and litany of commitments that have happened in the last 2 weeks, not just for Alabama, not just for LSU, for Florida, for Georgia, for Texas, that nationally. I mean, these last 2 weeks, and I'm thankful for it, doing a podcast and doing this show, that we got a lot to talk about. Normally, this time of year, we're debating, let's go back in the time machine and remember X game that we enjoyed. And that's fun to talk about, but we do it every year because we had to. We're looking for content. Now, I mean, these last 2 weeks have been absolutely incredible. I mean, some of the best players in the country have been committing, really all over the place. Ohio State, Texas. I mean, just yesterday in particular was fantastic.
Oregon.
Iheanacho went to Oregon. Booby Feaster sort of surprisingly went to USC. Fogel, the tight end, went to Georgia. Of course, Bama's gotten, several dudes here. LSU got an offensive lineman from Mississippi yesterday that was not so much a surprise, but there was some guesswork there. Tennessee's gotten some folks. I mean, the rankings have been like fluctuating the last several days, and it has been just an absolute madhouse. If you love recruiting like I do, these last 2 weeks have been absolutely awesome.
Well, it's been big for Alabama, and I want to stick there. How much time do we have, Brett?
We got to go to break here in about a minute and a half.
All right. Well, real quick, Luke, just run down the recent commitments for Alabama, and then when we come back, we'll talk about each one of those, and then maybe look back at the top 10 or 15 here in the state of Alabama and where they're ending up this year.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks in a row of commitments for Alabama daily. Like the only day that Alabama didn't get a commitment was July 3rd in these last 2 weeks. So they've gotten commitments from J.J. Finch out of Indianapolis, who's a defensive lineman, Real Kelly, who flipped from Rutgers. He's out of Winton Woods, Alabama. Got a kid named Justin Hill out of there last year. They got a commitment from Ryan Williams, a wide receiver out of Orlando. Zay Hall from Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. Javari Barnett, who they flipped from Illinois out of Tampa. Owen Cabell, a wide receiver out of Tennessee. Nolan Wilson committed yesterday. Xavier Crowell committed from Jackson, and sort of a big deal. Sedarian Morgan, Xavier Griffin both committed recently. So, yeah, Alabama was, by most accounts, somewhere from the 20s to the 50s in recruiting, and now they're top 6. And they're going to get another commitment today. And Jordan Edmonds, who's a 5-star, Alabama could move into the top 3, top 2 even, depending on what else happens. But as I said, there's so many other commitments happening that if you try and do the class calculator to figure out where your team's going to be, you still might be wrong because somebody else may be committing to a team ahead of you anyway. So, but it's been a hell of a run for Alabama. There's no doubt.
All right, let's go to the top of the hour break. Stay tuned. 1 hour left here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. No, it absolutely has been. And look, again, I think Auburn could have gotten some of these guys, not necessarily the ones that went to Alabama or somewhere. I think Auburn was in with a lot of these guys, and on these OVs, just from what I was hearing and what I've been told, is they ain't telling anybody anything, not even giving them a smidget of an idea of what they can do. Said, we'll have to tell you what we can do later on. And I'm like, so, I mean, you just have to take your medicine, man. I mean, that's the only thing you can do at this point.
Well, here, and I probably should wait to say it, but let me ask both of y'all this. I think I've said it to you, Brett, but with the early enrollees, I mean, if you get a commitment in July, August, you've only got to hold that commitment for 3 or 4 months now, because they're going to be on campus and starting to get paid. If they're not already getting paid, which I'm of the opinion that there's money being funneled somehow.
Sure.
You can't tell me that it's not. And you better be, or you're, again, not going to get any of them. But who wouldn't report? I said this yesterday. Who wouldn't go ahead and report in December and get money the right way? I would. I don't care if I was an unbelievable basketball and baseball player or a great track athlete.
I do.
If you told me holding off for 4 or 5 months to finish out my high school season would cost me $25,000 a month, and you're 18, what are you picking? Like, I mean, really, like you're going to report. So Auburn has got to flip these guys within a 3 or 4 month period now, Brett, because they're all early enrollees. We don't have till the end of February.
No,
we don't have until unless you get them to flip, in December.
And I do think it's going to be harder to flip guys now.
I don't think there'll be as many flips.
Point. That's my point.
I do think it'll be harder to flip guys. And, so again, I don't know what Auburn's expecting August 1. Again, I'm going to be watching that date pretty heavily because they brought that up. And I don't know, it's the first time that you can show an offer on paper and it'll be out there for the public to see.
Well, Hugh Freeze, I think, put himself in a corner. I can tell you this, where he said, I still think we'll have a top 10 class. I have tried my best to go through it mathematically. And even with some pretty crucial flips, I don't see how in the world.
I don't think they'll be top 10. I do think you can salvage the class, probably get in the top 20 and go get some really good guys out of the portal. So here's where I don't think people need to worry about the sky falling right now is Auburn does have a good roster. And he did say, look, we want to make sure we maintain our roster and keep our – and look, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but Auburn needs to win football games this year, period, anyway. It's time for them to – they've established a roster. Let's quit worrying about the future. Let's worry about now because now is more important than ever for Auburn. Everybody wants to win, I get it, but Auburn needs to win more now than probably anybody to show that, hey, over the last 2.5 years, this is what we've been building. Now we can show on the field we can compete, and we can go win a bunch of games, and we can go and do whatever. And then the mentality, y'all know how momentum is. Things can change, and probably not going to get in the top 10, could get in the top 20 if things go really well this year for Auburn. And then you go out, Randy, like you and I've talked for the last couple of weeks, and you go get you some really good guys. You use your money, and you go get some really key guys in the portal that can come in and be really good players for you, like Eric Singleton, Xavier Chaplin, some of those guys like that.
Well, I don't.
Let me get us back in. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Hour number 2 here coming up for everybody. Get your comments in. We've got a lot of those coming through. We'll keep going through those, but yeah, Randy, I think that's just we were just talking about it off the TV side. I think right now it doesn't look good for Auburn. You can't spin it any other way than that. But the transfer portal does change things. I'll definitely say that it definitely does in basketball for sure.
Well, it does, and I'll hit on that, but I do want to give Luke a chance to close out on the comments on the recent recruits, and then I want to go into philosophy and Lane Kiffin and what he's done over the last couple of years at Ole Miss in comparison to what Auburn has seemed to be trying to do in the high school ranks. But Luke, Alabama recruiting the state of Alabama a lot better than they did last year. And it feels like even some marginal players in the state of Alabama, like the Hillcrest kid, Alabama's willing to go and get them. Can you talk about that? Because a few weeks back, we were throwing darts at each other that Auburn felt like they were making moves here in the state much better than Alabama was. Well, it didn't take DeBoer and staff too long to get back in the thick of things here in the state.
Yeah, I think, you go back to last year, I think it's a few things there. Number one, Alabama still ended up with the 3rd best class in the country. So, it didn't bother me about the in-state. There were some guys that Alabama wasn't as in love with as maybe the national folks were, the guys that do the ranking. Okay, I can buy that. But I was looking to this year because I was like, look, if you don't love Sedarian Morgan, you don't love Tank Jones, if you don't love some of those dudes, I have to begin questioning your own evaluations. Well, they did love them. And, I feel like they've got a great shot at Tank. They've already gotten Sedarian, who is, just an absolute stud to me. You guys know, I think he's just, somebody was like, well, he could work on his route running. I said, yeah, he could. That's great. I said, but one thing nobody could do for him is make him grow to be 6'5" and go up and high point every ball he needs to. If you look at his huddle tape, every catch is like, he's not getting a lot of Aaron Rodgers passes thrown to him. A lot of them are catches nobody else could go get except him. And he does go and get them. And so that's something to notice. But I think this year, Alabama, everybody keeps saying, I keep seeing this on message boards. Well, Auburn, Alabama wasn't going to let Auburn dominate for 2 years in a row. I don't think that's what it was. I just think that Alabama didn't prioritize some guys Auburn did last year. And I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm just saying they had other guys nationally they may have ranked higher or may have thought they had a better chance with. And now with the revenue share and everything else, you talk about somebody like Zay Hall. You're like, why would Alabama reach down there when they're recruiting so well? Well, because see, again, and this is to my point and why I think Cohen and Freeze are missing the boat, that Zay Hall to me is a value pick. He is somebody that, you know, a good NFL team is built with your third, fourth, fifth, and sixth round picks. Yes, you got to have a great quarterback. We all know that. So that's why you go out and spend money for a Keelan Russell. This year, Alabama's not going to do that. They're not even chasing Landon Duckworth. They've gone out and gotten Jet Tamala, and they're probably going to get this kid from Hawaii originally who's now in Utah playing. And they're going to get two guys who are value picks. They're going to cost a little bit of money, but they're not going to cost the money that, say, a Landon Duckworth would command, because that would sort of blow your budget. It doesn't make sense to do that anymore. And Zay Hall is one of those linebackers where he's really good. He's a very solid player. But do I expect him to come in and be a star? Would Nick Saban have recruited him had there been no salary cap like there is now, essentially, quote unquote? No. But you've got to go find guys like that too that can fit into your budget, that you go, okay, I'm not paying you $400,000 or $300,000 or $200,000. I'm going to give you $25,000 a year. And if you can work your way up the ladder if you start doing better or something like that. So I think Alabama, that's what I'm impressed with as much as anything. I feel like if Zay Hall is one of your least rated dudes, he looks like a pretty doggone good player. And for my money, if you go out there and take a guy who plays in the state of Alabama at a place that, Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, they play some dudes. You know, that's a tough place to play. And if he's one of your guys, you're going like, I'm going to take a value flyer on him. I can live with that. The problem would be, it's like Jabari Barnett, the guy that Alabama has committed at running back. You know, a lot of people are like, well, we stole him from Illinois. I said, first of all, you know who's the head coach at Illinois? Bielema. What does he know? Running backs. So I'm okay with getting him. But if he were my number one guy, I'd be like, I don't know if I love this. But guess what? Xavier Crowell is your number one guy. Some people think he's the best running back in the country. So when you get him and you couple him with this other guy, all of a sudden your running back class is awesome. So and same thing with wide receivers. If Sedarian Morgan weren't on this receiver commitment list and it were just Brian Williams Jr. out of Orlando and it were just Owen Cabell out of Tennessee, two, moderate 3-star players who have a lot of great measurables, both 6'3" to 6'4", kind of slender, both pretty fast, you would say, I don't know if I love this receiver class. But if you put them with Sedarian Morgan, who's also 6'4", 6'5", 220, you go, okay, I like this class a lot now. So it's your top end is what you really want to see. And that's but the bottom end guys, they look better when your top end guys are really good too,
Let me say this about the top 10 in the state this year. Alabama's got Sedarian, who is number one, and then Tank Jones is undecided. And I would say probably leaning toward Alabama right now. We'll see. But if Alabama were to get those two, obviously you get the top two players of the state. That's great. But then Landon Duckworth's not staying in state. Rodney Cleveland's gone. Jaquez Wilkes is the next one that's uncommitted, and Auburn feels good about him at 6, but you don't know. Xavier Crowell's going to Alabama. Then Hezekiah Harris committed to Auburn. Emmanuel Ruffin uncommitted. Then you got Marquez Daniel going to Florida, Kean Chapman, North Carolina, Dylan Purter, LSU, J.J. Bush, Arkansas, Shadarius Tootle, Georgia. I mean, this is not these other schools are coming into this state, and they're pulling players out. And then you go down to Corey Barber, who we all know, Randy, very well. We watched him last year. He's committed to Ole Miss. I mean, you just keep on going down the list. And so there's only a couple of guys really left available, 3, maybe 4 left in the top 10, top 11 that are left to commit. And Auburn maybe could get 1 or 2, possibly. Alabama could get possibly 2 more. But that would give Alabama 4 in the top 10, and Auburn could possibly end up with 2 or 3. But it's, again, you want the higher end. If you can get out like Alabama this year, get the number 1 and 2 guy, and then get another one, you're like, okay, I got the ones I wanted, and then it only leaves what's left. So, I mean, more teams are coming into this state and grabbing players.
Well, I look at Corey Barber. To me, is a guy that if Alabama had decided, if I say decided. I think Ole Miss prioritized him more than Alabama, which I respect, and I'm like, hey, I love him too. If you had told me Alabama gets Corey Barber instead of one of the other two guys that I mentioned that aren't Zadarian Morgan, I'm on board. I love Corey Barber. If you had told me the same thing with Kean Chapman, but here's where my bet is, and again, this is what's sort of impossible to know. I'm betting North Carolina is willing to spend more on Kean Chapman than Alabama is. I'm betting Ole Miss is willing to spend more on Corey Barber than Alabama is. So what Alabama has to do is say, okay, we need to go find a dude like him who's close to what he is,
All right,
at a better value. And I think that's what they've done, because if you put Kean Chapman, Owen Cabell, Brian Williams Jr., and Corey Barber in a bag and pull out two of them, I think you're as satisfied. Yeah, I think you could do any two of them and you're happy. Zadarian Morgan's a different animal. You know, we all know that. Tristan Keys is a different animal. But so I think that some schools are going to prioritize, and that's where, you know, I thought that, hey, some of these schools have an opportunity to come in here and let some of the Alabama kids make some serious money, meaning the state of Alabama kids. And I pulled up 24/7 because I know that's what you like, but there are three undecided dudes there, and you left out Zion Gibson, who's number 5. So there are only three undecided. One of them is Emmanuel Ruffin, who I haven't really heard associated much with Bama or Auburn.
He's moved up quite a bit here recently.
I haven't heard him associated with Alabama or Auburn, which seems a little odd to me. And then there's Jaquez Wilkes. You know, certainly Auburn's right up the road, but there is a lot of Texas A&M buzz around him, just like there's some A&M buzz around Tank Jones. And you know, that's the one thing you don't ever want to do, get in a bidding war with one of them Texas schools.
I will tell both of y'all this, and I told Randy this. When we went to St. Paul's, I had a guy tell me that Texas A&M has been living down there. I mean, they have placed a lot of priority, so don't think just naturally he would choose Alabama. I don't think you can do that anymore. Even if it were Auburn in the mix, I don't think you'd say, oh, well, it's just going to go and stay. Texas A&M, if they want you and they want to come in and throw enough at you, they can definitely pull you. All right, let's go to break, guys.
I will say this, though, real quick. Isaiah Crowell, you and I felt like Texas being in that Final Three may be a reason for –
You said Isaiah. That's the one that went to Georgia, pulled the puppy out years ago. Yeah.
My bad. EJ. But he not picking Texas and picking Alabama was maybe I was a little surprised by it. I thought that with Texas being in that Final Three probably was a good reason to think that he was going to end up there, but I was wrong, and so Alabama hopes the same with Tank Jones.
Texas thought they had him.
Yeah, we were told when I went to Jackson, you know, I had somebody down there say, "Look, I think he may shock some people tomorrow," because we went the day before his commitment, and I'm like, he said, well, "What shirt did he have on?" I went, "Okay," and so I told Randy, I'm like, "Don't be surprised, you know, here," and then of course he did go to Alabama, but I told EJ to his face, I said, "Man," I said, "I already know where you're going." He's like, "No, you don't." I was like, "You want to put $100 on it?" He's like, "No, never mind." I said, "Yeah, exactly." I said, "I know where you're going." So, all right, up against the break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
He should have said, "Yeah, I put $100 on it. Let me call Alabama and get my NIL deal up to $100. Then I'll
get nothing to lose." It cost you anything? Just get it from the university. I mean, I could have left Jackson with $100.
How many commitments is that for Alabama now?
18, I believe. Let me make sure.
How many for Auburn, Brett?
8, I think. Let me pull it up.
I'm trying to pull it up.
I did pull up the.
I'm scrolling.
Like our
got 7.
Like Jet Tamalia. Like y'all got Jet Tamalia from out of state. And hold on one second. Let me pull this up real quick. He's a top 15 guy, and Peyton Falzone's a top 15 guy. The one Auburn got and the one that Alabama got. So, I mean, you look at it from that standpoint, getting quarterbacks. Like, I don't know, like South Carolina, and I kind of felt like Landon Duckworth, it's been South Carolina the whole time. He was committed to them. You know, then they had a change, an offensive coordinator, and then he decommitted. And then he got to know that guy again, you know, the new offensive coordinator. So it's changed. I felt like the whole time it was like an 80% lean to South Carolina. I was shocked that he named Auburn as his top 2. I figured it was South Carolina, Ole Miss, and 24/7 still has Ole Miss on there. But that's old.
Here's an interesting question when it comes to Peyton Falzone, right? He's never visited campus. I know apparently his dad did, but he's never visited Auburn himself. And it wasn't like he was committed to nobody. He was committed to Penn State, his in-state school.
Right.
So if Auburn can't tell him what he's getting, and he's never been there, and he had other offers, what in the world
I don't know.
did they do to sell him that they aren't doing with anybody else? That's what's so puzzling to me. This kid's never been on campus.
I think everything we're talking about right now, Auburn's got 7 commitments, by the way.
Yeah.
It's all puzzling. Auburn's doing something that even Auburn hadn't done before. I mean, it's like, hey, hold my beer. I'm about to show y'all how obscure we can get, and obtuse we can get. The bottom line is that there is no pattern for what we're seeing right now, and I just have a hard. We said it Friday on the podcast. I just have a hard time believing that all of a sudden it's just going to be like, oh, well, here, uncover pull the sheet off the statue, and here's the statue, and it was exactly like we all thought it was going to look. There's just part of me that feels like you stick out there on an island by yourself. You playing with fire, man. We'll see though. Time
Looks like that statue of Ronaldo.
Well, that's the statue I was referring to. That's the one.
There's one other statue it could have looked like.
A bust of somebody.
I wish we could put that one up.
Well, don't put it past me. I don't know that there's ever been anybody that built the bust of somebody that looked like himself. The guy, he obviously was looking in the mirror when he was making it. The bust looked like him. The guy that presented it to.
Well, it looked like him after he had run his face into a hornet's nest.
and then before the metal whatever cooled down, he took a pine limb and drew the logo.
It's the worst statue I've ever seen.
I think it might be that it goes down in the history of like Pompeii. Like,
maybe that's why he didn't come to the Auburn Invoice. He said, I can't take any more of these gifts.
I just want to know where it is. That's my deal. I am going to muster up enough courage one day and just straight up ask. I'm going to say, can I ask you where you put that?
I know where it'd be if it was mine. It'd be over at Mayfield Scrapyard.
They wouldn't take it.
Oh, God.
All right, Ed said, Luke, you keep saying freeze, but he's having to do what Cohen tells him to do. This is at the feet of Cohen. Oh, he's the AD, man. And we all walked out there saying the same thing. I mean, it was almost like Randy when – all right, I think we're back. Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill, Sunshine Heating and Air. Randy, it's almost like Alan Green telling Bruce Pearl, and Bruce Pearl said, you're not going to tell me what to do on this. And how much damage would have been done if Bruce Pearl would have just got in lockstep with him? Probably wouldn't be at Auburn right now. And the whole basketball thing wouldn't be where it is right now. And you've alluded to this too. Like, we've sat people in the past, like, for no freaking reason at all. Like, why did we do that? Like, dare them to come get you. Like, I think in this day and age now of people saying, no, man, everybody else over here, I ain't falling on the sword for everybody. You're going to have to prove, and I'm not going to step down from what I'm doing. You're going to have to come in and prove that I'm doing things differently than everybody else. I just think, man, you're just going down a real tedious path right here when you decide to step out on your own.
Well, a couple of thoughts. One, we do a lot of high school talk here, and it feels the same there right now. You got kids that are transient, that are moving all over the place, and there's reasons that they're going from one program to the other. And we'd all love for it to be the same way that it was back in the mid-'90s, where we grew up in a community and we lived there for 17 or 18 years, and you got who you got, and you built them up from first grade on, and you watched them with the same coaching staff. But look, I mean, those days are long gone. And the ones that are winning championships have move-ins every year. And why are they moving into their community? Well, one, because they got a great coach that builds a great culture and a great program. And people in today's society find programs, schools that they can look at and say that this is where I want my kid. This is who I want him around. So there's one thought. Another is a comment my dad made when Auburn let Cliff Ellis go. I'll never forget the phone call. He said, I'd love to know what is going through the Auburn administration's mind to get rid of a coach that is just playing the game the same way that everybody else is playing it. We were finally trying to get to the level with Auburn basketball, if you remember, Brett, with Cliff Ellis, and it would be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. It was not near the peaks consistently that we're seeing under Bruce Pearl, but it was getting there. You know, it was getting to where Auburn that year that somehow we let Cliff Ellis go, that was a great, great group of players coming back.
Lewis Monroe and Marco Killingsworth and
Douglas, and just keep going down the list.
Yeah, I mean, they all moved on to be great players other places.
Brandon Robinson, I mean, that was going to be a very good team. But Auburn being, you know, I'm not saying that I hate that Auburn is this way from time to time, but we were going to be the ones that do it right. We weren't going to dare let Auburn do something that every other blue blood was doing. Yeah. Which was my biggest complaint when all of that went down with Bruce Pearl a few years ago, where we go through a whole football season where we don't even see Bruce Pearl one time on the Jumbotron. I mean, it's the craziest thing to think back to, but that's how ridiculous the NCAA and all of this is. So let me finish one, and then I'll get y'all's thoughts, but I'm so behind what Luke said earlier. If there is one person on campus that I'm asking his opinion on this and how to play this and it's not our athletic director. I like him, and put a mic in front of him and let him talk. I think a lot of him. I thought a lot of him when he was at Mississippi State coaching them in baseball. I'm glad that we've got him. I think he's a great person, but I'm not asking his opinion. We've got Bruce Pearl on staff at Auburn University that I'm 110% confident is going to play that basketball, NIL and transfer portal as well as you can play it, and going to put us in a great position year in and year out. And I'm hard pressed to think that Auburn's basketball program's doing the same thing that our football program is right now. Do you think that, Brett? And then we'll get to Luke. But do you honestly think that the basketball program's not right there on the cutting edge?
No, they're right there. I mean, they've proven that. Again, and Luke, I'll defer to you on this, and Randy, I'll get y'all's thoughts on this. I mean, again, can we please quit interpreting things? Get a definitive answer and go, okay, this is what – I mean, it's not hard to go ask somebody if we want a $400,000 deal and somebody from outside wants to give them $400,000. Does that count toward our cap or not? That should be a simple yes or no answer. It shouldn't be any ambiguity there. And then I thought the question or the comment from Travis earlier was maybe one of the best questions that we've all had. What's the point of having a salary cap? You can just go out and add whatever you want to on the side. I mean, then there really is no salary cap at that point. So can we just get some damn clarification from somebody? I think that would just help, maybe help Auburn's guys more than it helps anybody, because obviously they're looking at it this way and everybody else is over here looking at it this way. Somebody's wrong.
I think the clarification is more for us than it is for anybody else. Again, this is where I think Auburn is playing it so improperly that I think the ambiguity is great for most schools because they have plausible deniability. They can say, hey, this is the way, look, read this thing again and then tell me what you think. And they go, well, I guess I could see it that way. So I can't really punish you because I can see where you were coming from. If you call them and ask them, I mean, last night I'm at the beach and I'm watching
let me go to break and then you keep going. I've got to get to break for TV. Stay tuned, everybody. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this. All right, go ahead.
Last night I'm at the beach watching my 8-year-old daughter and her 10-year-old cousin and another 10-year-old cousin, and they're swimming in the pool. And I said, "Look, I'm going to be up on this second level of this condominium complex watching y'all from the glass because it's hot as rip out there, and I'm just going to be in here in the AC. I don't want to be out there." So I'm up there watching them, and I text my wife, tell her, "Hey, I got the kids, just letting you know they want you to worry." And I look back up, and they're gone. I mean, I looked down for 5 seconds, and I came outside and I saw them. One of them was lagging behind the other ones, and they were gone to the next door pool, which is a connecting thing. And I said, "Come here." And she said, "Yeah, well, we just, they're connecting." I said, "Nope, you can't do that." But I was like, I kind of respect what you're doing because, you interpret this as these buildings are kind of connected. They're both phoenixes, and they sort of get where you're in the gray area. I get it. But I'm giving you the clarification now. You can't do it. So do it next time and y'all are in trouble. So they all came back and nobody was in trouble. Everything was fine. My point is, that's what you should do. Say, "Oh, the way I interpreted, I could give him 400,000. And what Auburn's doing is calling mama at 9:53 when the curfew's 10 and saying, "Can I stay out late?" No, what you do is you stay out till 10:30, and then when you get there, you say, y'all don't even know how bad the traffic was in Kellyton today. I couldn't even, it's bumper to bumper Kellyton. I couldn't get home.
Couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable. I mean, how many times?
It goes back to what I said. It's so much easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission.
And again, I don't want to give this perception that I think, because when I explained it that way, the first thing I thought was, well, somebody will say, well, Auburn is trying to do it the right way and nobody else is. No, I think Auburn's being stupid. I don't think this is a virtue. I don't think this is a virtue at all. I think Auburn's being quite dumb about this. And here's the problem. Now, like Randy said, you're running out of time. Of course, there's a transfer portal. You can help yourself later. But the publicity hit is a problem. I mean, because
right now, there's no way to get away from it. There's nothing that's going to change that. So that's what we've been saying on the podcast all week. And we got like 20 seconds, by the way. But I've been saying that. I'm like, there ain't a dang thing that can be done to clean up Auburn's perception right now until the football season gets started. Now you start winning football games. You go on the road, you beat Oklahoma, you beat Texas A&M, you go out and shell Baylor first game. Now everybody's talking about, damn, they got a great team and blah, blah, and all this. But also on the flip side, you go lay eggs, you go, well, it is falling apart. So, all right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Split Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Can't say enough about our two partners here. Been with us for a long time, been doing this show over 20 years. We greatly appreciate them very, very much. But kind of going back, Randy, and I'll start with you. We were talking about this off the TV side. You really are. I said this walking out. I said Auburn's really gambling that they're making the right call on this thing. And if you gamble and you lose, you set yourself way behind, like way, way behind to try to catch up. And we've talked the thing to death about winning football games. We all know that. There's nothing Auburn can do right now in the present to clear its perception up. When you're 84th, Auburn moved up to 84th with the addition of the tight end they got yesterday. But the bottom line is there's no way to spin it. There's no way to spin it that you got 7 commitments and you're 84th in recruiting, you're dead last in the SEC. There's just nothing you can say about it.
No, there's not. And but when you're in this boat and you do need to spin it, there are a couple of positives that you can lean into that I think Lane Kiffin's done a better job than Auburn has over the last 5 to 7 years. And that's, if you're not going to finish in the top in high school recruiting, you've got to go out there and pick up some transfers that can make a major splash. So Auburn's going to have cash. I mean, there should be plenty of cash sitting on the sideline, because I'm with Luke. I mean, if you can figure out how to get in the top 10 class with where you're standing right now, I don't see it. But Auburn, Brett, you started the program today before Luke got on, and you said Auburn's got a chance to have 3 or 4 first-round picks on this current roster, and we haven't been there. We haven't had guys go into the NFL consistently. Even the ones that have been big recruits, we haven't developed them to the level that they are able to go to the NFL as a top pick. But right now, we've got but the 2 of the top 3 that I think you mentioned, are both transfers.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and I'd love y'all's opinion on this, but I've given this example the last week. You know, let's take two receivers that Auburn have that we've got on this roster. And I don't know the numbers, but I think we can speculate pretty closely with Eric Singleton on what we had to spend to get him. It was a big number. But what is your percentage for success this year that you have on Eric Singleton this year, Brett? I'll start with you.
95%.
How about you, Luke? I mean,
Yeah, I'd say, I feel like he's going to be successful. I don't know about a percentage, but I'd say I think he's a guy that he will be proven successful.
He will live up to billing.
It will be money well spent. Is where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Whereas Auburn got one of the top recruits a couple of years ago in Perry Thompson. And if I go to both of you, and I don't know the number that's been given for both of these guys, but I'm going to speculate. Let's just say that from a high school standpoint, he was one of our top money getters a couple of years ago. I think any of us would agree with that. What's your percentage that Perry Thompson's going to have a massive year this year, Brett?
I mean, it'd be less than 50% because you got, you know who your three starters are going to be right out of the gates. He's going to have to work his way into the lineup somewhere. And then you got Horatio Fields that came in, and you've got Sam Turner that's been kicking tail in the spring, and they're expecting him to get playing time. So there's just not a spot. You got to, they even talked about moving Perry Thompson maybe to tight end to try to get him on the field with those guys and create some mismatch things. So it's a lot less than Eric Singleton.
So, and Luke, I think you would agree with Brett on that. So my point is, you've got to play both ends. And I have been wholeheartedly behind Hugh Freeze's, because I'm a high school guy. I want to see the kids in the state get opportunities, and I want to see them be at Auburn. So I'm all behind that. But if that doesn't work out for you, you've got to make that other work out exceptionally well. Like, you must be one of the top transfer portal destinations, and you've got to spend massive money to make sure that if there's an Eric Singleton out there, or if there is a Mateer that's at Oklahoma. Yes. Look, we'd love to think Jackson Arnold's the next coming, but Oklahoma let him go to get another one. So, and I think, Brett, you said it right at the top of the transfer portal. If you had to go pick one that was in the transfer, it was Mateer.
Yep.
And you said it a couple of years ago, and you pleaded a few years ago for Cam Ward, but Auburn doesn't go get Cam Ward.
Right.
Well, to be able to go get those two guys, let's just use them for example, you got to have big money sitting on the back end. So I'm not saying that I like that Auburn's sitting at 84th. I am not spinning it in that direction. But the way that I am spinning it is, you're going to have to spend light money. Like, Auburn can't come in and say, okay, well, we didn't spend money on this high school, but we're not going to equal up to what Alabama's spending. You can't do that. You've just got to equal it out by going and getting guys like we do in basketball. Like, I know longer in basketball, and I know that y'all don't either. I mean, look at Alabama and Auburn's roster the last 4 years in basketball. Hell, there have been nothing but transfers in that have made the biggest splash for both programs. Alabama go with Brandon Miller. I was hoping and praying they'd go to hell in a handbasket the next year, and they were just as good, if not better, the next year.
Well, they were better. They went to the Final Four the next year.
I know they were, and there's no part of me that thinks Alabama's not going to put a Final Four type roster out there this year, or Auburn. But it's in the transfer portal, and you got to spend massive money on the Keyshawn Halls of the world to get them to come to your program over Alabama. So my point is, I think if the philosophy is going in that direction, then I can get behind it, and we'll see if that works out.
Hey, I saw something real quick, guys, a projection of the best basketball programs over the next 10 years, and I'll try to pull it up, but it had Auburn and Alabama in the top 10.
It's amazing.
The best and you look down, how do you argue with that?
You don't.
You look at what both of these programs have done over the last 5 to 6 years, and Kentucky can say what it wants to, and I didn't
not at Auburn and Alabama's level.
I never thought we would have seen the day where we consider Auburn and Alabama basketball better than Kentucky. And it's just where it is right now. So let's get to break. We'll keep this discussion going. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Randy, I see what you're saying, and I think Texas Tech has that approach where they offer, Felix Ojo, 5 million. I mean, essentially 5 million. He can make upwards of $5 million, right? Or possibly make $5 million.
Better hope that guy pans out when you throw.
Well, number one, you better hope he pans out. Number two, that is a significant dent in your budget. Even if you have, billionaires, it's a significant dent. And that's where I go back to somebody like Jackson Arnold. Reportedly Auburn's paying him between $2 and $3 million.
That's the number I've heard too.
That's a lot of money for somebody who's not very proven. I mean, I know he was good in high school, but he has not been good in college.
Oh, I totally agree.
And so
I'm 100% in agreement.
What I'm saying
I think Auburn, luckily, and I'll jump in, just you add to it, but I think we got one waiting in the wings that ceiling's a lot higher than his. So
could be.
The quicker we go that direction, the better for me, if it doesn't pan out.
But what I'm saying is that's $2 or $3 million. And again, I know Jimmy Raines involved and Harbert and everybody else, but they're billionaires for a reason. They're not stupid. They're not going to keep throwing good money after bad. And so I think they look at that and go, hey, we're having to overspend right now, and we're still not seeing results. Now, maybe results come this year, but again, it's all PR stuff. And maybe I'm acute to this because of Krista, but I look at, when you couple, it's one thing if Hugh Freeze comes to the ambush event and says, guys, we're trying to do this right. We're interpreting it this way, and we're recruiting our tails off. And then somebody goes, yeah, but you've played golf 11 straight freaking weekends, right? Yeah. That's kind of weird.
Well, the perception, look, and you people can laugh and say whatever they want to say and come up with it's the truth. Look, perception's reality a lot of times. And it doesn't matter when you're sucking wind and then you see that come out, it's just easy pickings for people, especially people outside of your program that want to shoot holes in you and what you're doing. You want that's ammo to go to there. Good look, man. He don't care. He don't take it serious. Rightfully or wrongfully, that's the reality of the world. Your enemies are going to go and say use that as ammo against you. So that is a point well taken. I totally understand that, and there's no way to spin it any other way than that.
It reminds me yesterday, when the big beautiful bill passed, and again, I don't want to get political. There were some folks, going on Twitter saying, how am I supposed to feed my family? And everybody go, okay, I could buy that, except you weigh 250 pounds. You got a flat screen TV mounted to your wall. If you're worried about feeding your family, put a little bit of down yourself, sell the TV, do some other stuff. I mean, it's like, Hugh Freeze saying, I just can't do anything about this recruiting. And by the way, I can't talk about it anymore. I got a tea time in 5 minutes. I got to see y'all later. That what I'm saying is it sort of rings hollow.
Well, it's hard to argue with it. I'm telling you.
How much time, Brett?
5 seconds.
I'll start on a question I had to you earlier.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left in the show today, and we appreciate all of you out there joining us and all your comments that are coming in. Go.
Well, I asked Brett this, and Luke, I don't think you and I have hobbies up to this level, but we would both agree that if Brett Pritchard had a choice to make today, he might sit on this camera and talk, would be second, but he would wake up every morning and go fishing. Not some mornings, like 365 days out of the year, he would wake up and he would go fishing. And the idea that he doesn't means that he set some priorities to say, it's probably not a good idea that I wake up on a Tuesday and instead of trying to grow my business when I'm in the peak of my career, I'm going to go fishing. But am I wrong, Brett? You'd go fishing every day, wouldn't you?
I would. If I had the opportunity, if Lord willing, and I had the money and it was all set, I'd absolutely be on that boat.
Well, I think that's the reason that I hate, trying to knock somebody that's got a hobby that they love, because I get it. And trust me, there's a lot of people out there that get the bug with golf. And I've got friends of mine and family members. They'd play every morning and every day if they could. Luke, you got a family member that would do the same. But unfortunately, he's got to go put fountains up and live in Washington, D.C. 90% of his life. I talked to him this week about it. And but But y'all get where I'm coming from. I think that there is credence to question whenever you get down at the level that Auburn's sitting in recruiting. You're going to have darts thrown unless things turn around quickly.
I mean, there's no spin on earth. The most ardent Auburn fan can't spin to me that Auburn, for any reason ever, should be number 78 in recruiting. If everybody only had one commitment, Auburn shouldn't be 78th. I mean, look, I dislike Auburn as much as anybody, and I still.
Where does your disdain for Auburn come from, Luke?
His mother.
Yeah, my mama.
She's
and
one.
she graduated.
I already knew the answer. I just wanted him to tell everybody.
Mom said her favorite thing to do when we were growing up was after Auburn lost, she'd love to go to that convenience store at 280 and 63, watch Auburn people scrape the AU off the side of their face like this before they got back to Birmingham. So, but it's just there's no excuse, and especially when you have 7 commitments. It'd be one thing, I guess, if you wanted to take a flyer on this Kentrell White kid Auburn just got a commitment from yesterday, who on the surface, if you don't look into it, I mean, he's 6'5", 210, and you go, okay, he's great. But then you realize, like, well, he's 6'5", 210, and nobody really has him ranked as anything. They just put him on the radar, like, because Auburn was looking into it. That's how much clout Auburn has, that they put him on the radar only because Auburn was looking at him. That should, again, tell you, like, this number set. I mean, I just looked on 24/7. I think they're 78. That's mind-bogglingly low.
That's 6 spots higher than what I just saw him at. I saw him at 84. I'm just going to tell you.
Well, they probably gave him 6 spots just since I've been talking, because they're like, he's got a point. And I'm just telling you, it's crazy. And so there is no. I've seen some people try and defend Cohen and Hugh Freeze. By the way, what Cindy Ed Hines said, hey, look, Freeze has to do what Cohen tells him. I think that's a problem, because who is the most important person at any SEC school? The football coach.
It should be the head football coach, but ours is our basketball coach.
Well,
so I know where you're going with it.
Well, and that is very unique, and it's also not a path for success long term. Huh?
It'd be y'all's too after this season. Kalen DeBorden, if he loses 4 games, we may have another conversation.
It won't be, but see, we won't put up with it for long.
Well, I don't think we're going to put up with it after this year either. I mean, I think it's win or go. I mean, I think it's to that point.
Because football, and I love Nate Oates. I think he's awesome. And I know y'all love Bruce Pearl. You think he's awesome. But that ain't where the bones are buried financially. Bruce Pearl does a lot of things outside, so that may account for some other things. He helps Auburn on a PR level that probably accounts for a little more than most average coach. But if you're a financially smart and wise Auburn person, you realize I'd rather have a great football coach than a great basketball coach all day long, no matter what's happening, because I want my team. Because if I have a great basketball coach and I ain't got nothing in football, I got problems. If I have a great football coach and I ain't got nothing in basketball, I can live.
There's a reason those big, massive stadiums sit right in the middle of both campuses.
So what I'm saying is that Cohen shouldn't have that big of a stick over Freeze. Freeze should be able to go, now hang on there, athletic director Cohen. Let me run this ship. And if it goes down, so be it. You know what I'll do? I'll take all this big buyout and go play a lot more at Wicker Point. But if it gets turned, I think I can turn this around. Hugh Freeze, I did sense now, maybe it's hindsight's 50-50, like Pat Dye said, but I sense now maybe that's kind of where Freeze was going, but I don't think he carries enough big, or at least he feels like he carries a big enough stick to do it yet. Can you imagine Greg Byrne going to an event with Nick Saban and telling him how things are? Nick would be like, "What are you doing?" And I think that's how Freeze should be. Even if you don't like Freeze, you've got to admit he should be the most powerful person in that athletic department.
I mean, he should. I mean, and again, I think to this point, he hasn't proven anything on the field. I do say this, and both of y'all will agree. I don't spin things for Auburn when they're. I'm a realist. Like, to me, you lose credibility when you try to paint a rosy picture when it's not a rosy picture. And you look at the results on the field. Auburn missed 4 or 5 opportunities to have a lot better record last year. And I blame coaching for several of those games. You can say, well, Peyton Thorne threw a pick and, we missed a field goal and had bad luck with Alex McPherson. We had all that. But, you had Missouri beat. You had Oklahoma beat. You don't give those games away. I mean, Auburn literally should have won at least 3 more games last year. Auburn was in every single game last year. Auburn never got blown out. But they made some bad decisions at bad times, and they did have some games where Peyton Thorne threw 4 or 5 picks and all this stuff, and they ended up losing by 7 or 10. But bottom line is Auburn was better than their record showed. And a lot of times when that happens, you go back, well, why did you decide to throw the ball 3 times when you were up 21-10 in the fourth quarter and have 3 incompletions that stopped the clock? Then you missed a field goal. Then they turn around and throw a bomb, and now it's a 4-point game. I mean, that's the stupidity that makes you just go crazy. It's almost like you're waiting on something bad to happen. Auburn's got to snap out of that, and they got to win some damn games, period. I know people get sick of hearing me say that. I'm going to say it from now till the start of the season. But that is really where the rubber hits the road for Auburn.
I see Justin Clayton says Florida shouldn't be in the 60s this time of year either. Number one, I would say if I'm an Auburn fan, I'll be like, I don't give a rip what Florida's doing. And number two, Florida's number 16 in recruiting, if that's what he's referring to, right? On 24/7 at least.
Let me get the break here. It's the last break of the show. Stay tuned, everybody. One final segment coming up right after this.
I think he may be talking about last year at the same time. Florida was pretty low. That's the only no. So that Florida is. You're hearing Florida all over, aren't you, Brett? All of these kids. They're recruiting this state.
Auburn.
Really well.
Outside of the Alabama and Georgia that you're going to get with Auburn targets, it's Florida and Texas A&M. I don't hear LSU. Dylan Purder is the only guy I've talked to that's brought up LSU. I mean, that's serious. And I think they got some questions down there. I really do. I don't know that. I mean, they obviously get great classes every year. They almost have to figure out a way not to get a good recruiting class at LSU. But there's still doubt there as well with Brian Kelly and what he's doing. So, but Florida, Billy Napier, you talking about a rear end that was on fire. His was as hot as anybody's, and they finished the season with a pretty good – and they got DJ Lagway coming back, who I think may be the best quarterback in the league outside of Lenore Sellers. So, yeah, I mean, they picked up a lot of momentum. And then you got, Texas A&M that's deciding with Mike Elko, they're going to try to outspend everybody. So that's your competition.
I would also say this about that. My guess, last year was sort of still the Wild West, I guess. But last year was more completely up in the air. Like, say, yeah, why don't you sign with me? I'll give you 72 gazillion. Oh, really? Yeah, I will. And there's no contract to bind you to it. They just got to trust you. To see now there is at least a dotted line of a boundary. It's not super clear, and we don't really know about it. I understand all that. I don't understand it at least, but I think that there's at least some parameter of, okay, everybody in the SEC. See, everybody in the SEC has only got 18 million to work with. Now you can give that 18 million to one person if you want to. But what most people say is, I know from Alabama's perspective, 85 to 90% of that 18 million will go to football. Then the vast majority of what's left will go to basketball, and whatever scraps are left will go to everybody else. Probably baseball mostly, and then softball, women's basketball. But that goes back to my point about football, that you're going to use the most money on football, and if you don't, you're stupid. That's just the bottom line. Even Kentucky. So,
Russ, I don't know what's happened. I hadn't had any communication. It's like Houston, we got a problem. I ain't had communication with you in like 20 minutes, buddy. So tell me how long this break is. We're 2:40 in, so I know I'm getting close. If you can just let me know. I'm making the loop around the moon right now, trying to get back into orbit. There we go. 30 seconds.
I'm not going to bring it up on this show, but every time Luke goes on that rant with where the money's going to be spent,
yeah,
how is there not a lawyer not just chomping at the bit over this Title IX deal with college athletics? Where am I missing that, y'all?
And it may come, Randy. I mean, they may be waiting in the weeds too, going, all right, let's see how.
Oh man, I just think that's the
Here you
biggest
go.
winner out there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Final segment here on the program. I'll just say this about that. I think, again, there's so much ambiguity still out there on all this. It's too early to try to fight that battle. I think they're waiting to see how this money stuff plays out. And then I think there's going to be one that's waiting there to pounce and go, all right, y'all giving the lion's share to all these men's sports. Are y'all ignoring this federal mandate that's been enacted since the 1970s? Y'all just throw that in the trash? What are we going to do? And then you'll see it go up the ranks to the Supreme Court. And then when the Supreme Court rules, and I think we all know the Supreme Court will probably rule in favor of women.
They will, yes.
So now you got a whole nother animal. So, Randy, I think you've been talking about it a lot.
No, I think you're right. That's the
But I
first
think
time I've
it's
heard
coming.
any. I think that makes more sense.
No, let me push back a minute. If that's the case, then the WNBA, which is owned by the NBA, why aren't they paying Caitlin Clark the same that LeBron James is getting paid?
Because
And the
they're not
reason
getting
is they
federal
don't
money.
generate as much
They're not
income.
getting
They're not getting federal money.
Luke. It's a private organization.
Yes, okay, I hear you on that, but I think the same premise would apply in terms of if the whole idea is equality, then I think that the same premise would hold true. And I think that's, again, if I were a college football coach, I'd go, guys, yeah, when we were getting the federal money, and we are still getting federal money, but see, back then it was all under the guise of amateurism, so we could sort of equal it out. Well, now it's a business, and we all know it's a business. We're not hiding it anymore. So
you got to deem it that way.
Yeah.
You've got to change all the legislation. You've got to change the structure. You got to change all of that for it not to receive federal money that goes into facilities.
Well, they don't ever want to give up the federal money.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the reason I think it's the biggest winner sitting out there. Now, I think what Brett just said makes a ton of sense. Now I get it. Because they're just going to sit back and let this play out and let all of the money go to the men's sports. And then they're going to come in the 23rd hour and they're going to say, I tell you what, here's a big lawsuit. And it's not $1 million lawsuit. Here's $1 billion lawsuit.
You don't think there's somebody out there not working on that already?
Oh, you're on it. Because it makes too much sense. I do not. It doesn't make sense for Riley Gaines and others to pound the war chest of what's going on with transgender athletes and stuff. And anybody with a brain at all, I think, is behind that. But the easiest sell is, are we going to let all these women's sports go away? Are we not going to fund them up to equal level? Are we going to sit back just because football is the breadwinner and
football's going to have to split? Football's going to have to split away from the universities. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean,
I do like Justin's quote. This is so. I'm not going to go there, and then Randy proceeds to go there. I love that.
We all baited him into it.
It's like when you say, I'm not trying to be critical. Oh, you about to criticize the hell out of somebody.
Yeah, you just prefacing that you about to go off is what you're saying. That's all you're doing. But before we close out for TV, and we'll stay up for a couple minutes just to kind of wrap things up. But I think that's a good point, though, that it's not going to be allowed to sit over here and just go away. So I think what we all have been saying for 5 years is inevitable, that football is going to be its own separate entity. Now the question will be, what does that logo mean on the side of the helmet? And how does the universities handle renting the stadium to the program and all the facilities? Because if they're separating themselves, then there's got to be some, man, it is so daggum convoluted, man. And how this thing, we haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg on the complexity of all this stuff. We really hadn't.
And look, there is part of me, if we didn't have this show, that we've all been a part of 2 decades, and a podcast and other writings and other things, part of me would go, hey, y'all just wake me up when y'all figured all this out so that I can enjoy it again. But because we have all these things, I'm kind of worried at the same time, because now all these things have turned into avenues for money for us.
If they do that, Luke, I could go fishing.
Yeah, you could go fishing. And I'm like, hey, y'all aren't just screwing up sports. Y'all are screwing up sports journalism. Y'all are screwing up podcasting. Y'all are screwing up writing, journal, everything. It sucks. I mean, can somebody get in there and just, again, make it where I think anybody with sense, like you said, Brett, would understand. Okay, federal funds or not, women's sports don't even are a drop in the bucket in terms of financially of what the men's of what football is. But now we also we value women and we value their sports. We understand that having a sports and having this outlet, having this avenue is crucial for a lot of people to build on their lives and make themselves more successful. So we're going to have
let me get us out for TV, Luke. Pause yourself right there. That's going to wrap us up for TV. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week for another edition of the Saturday Sports Countdown. No, but go ahead, Luke. Keep finishing thought.
I have 2 daughters. I want there to be any kind of avenue for them to go and play any sport they want to. But I'm also not a fool. I'm not going to say, well, my daughter plays basketball and Brandon Miller plays basketball. They should both get the same money. No, because people pay money to go see Brandon Miller. You almost have to pay people outside of my family to go see my daughter play. That's just the way it is.
It's all valid. It's all valid points. I think, though, with the federal legislation in place and the guidelines you have to abide by to continue to get that federal funding, they've got to follow those. And I think they're waiting to see how all this plays out with this salary cap and all this kind of stuff. So,
and if I were a lawyer for the men's side, you know what I'd do? I'd go, y'all got a girl right now in the WNBA who can probably make as much money as anybody. And y'all hate her. Why do y'all hate her? Y'all keep pushing her down, not tripping her, knocking her down, kicking her in the tuchus. Why are y'all doing that?
Well,
she's your Michael Jordan.
By the other players,
complete and total joke.
Market her.
She's brought more fame to that league than's ever been brought to that league, and it's just abuse. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's just abuse.
You want somebody. You guys, we need somebody to help jumpstart the league. There she is, and she's not even like cocky. She's like, yeah, I can help. And you're like, no, get on over here. You ain't. No, we don't like you. Why? Why? I don't understand. Caitlin Clark can be your Michael Jordan. It makes no sense to me.
I think, look, I'm not going to dive into it. We could go to an uncut version of this show, and then I could just really let my thoughts go. Another comment here. Wade said the CSC, NCAA Congress, or whomever will not be Auburn's white knight. If you have to modify, push the envelope like everyone else and throttle back, not ramp it up.
I guess Wade thought the show kicked off in California.
He was on
doing the program 2 minutes after his over.
He's supposed to be on the show and showed up 30 minutes late, so don't tell me.
Y'all be careful out there.
All right, be safe, everybody.
See you.